Welcome to Gapology Radio with your hosts Mark Tinas and Brian Brockhoff. This is your leadership development podcast where they share unique insights with the purpose of helping leaders achieve their greatest potential. You can learn more by reading their books Gapology, IMBAR, and Speed of Purpose, or by participating in one of their workshops. All of this and more can be found on their website, gapology.org.
Hey everybody, welcome to Gapology Radio. We talk primarily about Gapology on the show and Speed of Purpose a bit as well, but I'd also like to remind you about our other book, IMBAR. That's I-M-B-A-R. If you're struggling to achieve the results that you're seeking, check this book out. The key could be in a misalignment of your identity and mindset. IMBAR teaches how your identity drives mindset. Mindset drives behavior. Behavior drives the action that happens around you, and that action ultimately drives your results. We lay out methods to clarify your current state, define your future state, and then construct a plan to get there. If you feel out of sync with your goals, order your copy today. I also wanted to mention IMBAR because it ties into our podcast today and my amazing guest. So let's go ahead and start the show. Hey everybody, today's a very special day for me. I've been looking forward to this for a very, very long time, almost since we started this podcast. We are extremely blessed to have the amazing Coach Cabrina McLain on the show today. So welcome, Cabrina.
Oh, man. Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Brian. I've been waiting forever to connect with you with this podcast. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, one of my favorite people of all time. And for those of you who have yet to experience Cabrina, I must say, well, and I have to say experience, because really no one ever just meets Cabrina. You really experience her. Her light, her passion. I'll never forget the first time that I saw you in a meeting, and I was instantly drawn to your energy. I thought that was fantastic. And she really will completely transform the way that you forever see the world if you ever do meet her. And for those of you who have yet to experience her, she's an executive coach and an author of 2 best-selling books, How to Foresee Positive Change in Your Life. And that's 4C with the number 4 and the letter C. I love that. And her other book is The Face of Adversity. And both of these are available right now on Amazon.com. And I definitely recommend that you pick them up today. So go there right now and order those. They're fairly short, but they're super impactful. And they provide great tips to dramatically improve your life, both in the workplace, but also in the personal arena of your life as well. The Face of Adversity also features content written by 12 of her amazing friends. And she even so kindly invited me to contribute as well, which was super humbling. I was very happy and grateful to do that. So Cabrina, thanks for being on the show today. This is a long time coming.
Well, first, thank you for that fantastic introduction. I definitely remember the day that we met. And I think that, when you meet someone and connect with them, it just stays with you. And I think that's why, I was drawn to stay connected with you over the years, man. So thanks for having me again. And thanks for that great introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump in and talk about your books first. How about if we start with your first one? So How to Foresee Positive Change in Your Life. I love this book. There's so many great tips in it. Why don't you give our listeners a little background, where it came from, what it's about, and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to thank you for taking a look at my draft. And I'm a creator, Brian, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not too good at making it look nice and pretty, and getting someone to make sure that the language flows the way it should. So thank you for coaching me during that process.
Absolutely.
So the origin of the book came from a time where, it was just a lot of tension, just building up in the country. And I noticed that the conversations I was having with the people that I care about were becoming more and more negative, right? So I needed to get it out some type of way. So, what I did was collect my experiences from some of the interactions I had with a few of my clients. And that's how the book came about.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and you lay out, so there's 4 C's, which of course ties to the title. And you really talk about how each of these things are very impactful to your life. So the 4 C's: compassion, courage, confidence, and celebration. And I love this. And I had another guest on maybe a month ago, Kim Rooney, and she talks about some of this in her book. And compassion is one that always sticks out to me, because absolutely, I agree with you. And, in the world today and really for a long time, we've needed more and more compassion, I think, just between people. And so why don't you walk us through each of the 4 C's?
Absolutely, Brian. So with compassion, there's a difference between compassion and empathy, right? Empathy, you feel for the person, but compassion is taking that empathy to action, right? It's letting that pregnant woman have your seat on the bus, right? It's taking that homeless guy out to lunch. And I think that, with compassion, you can't be a negative person and be compassionate, right?
Yeah.
So I think it releases some of those happy hormones, and it helps us make the world a better place. And in my book, I just, I definitely address it, and I want you guys to take a look at it and read it and tell me what you think about the compassion section of the book. So long story short with that, Brian.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it really ties into the other 3 C's so well. And if you can really tap into your compassion, it really will improve every element of your life, I think. It is that, standing up when there's a pregnant woman who needs a seat, or it is that kind of thing. But it's, actually on the last podcast that we just recorded earlier this week, we were talking about empathy. So this is very timely, I think, of a topic, because empathy is really being able to see someone else's life through their eyes, right? Putting yourself in their shoes and being able to see that. But then that compassion connects you to their soul.
Yes.
So you see the world through their eyes, but then you actually connect with them, and that's why I feel very passionate about compassion, I guess. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you're a compassionate person. I can't, I'm sorry that I'm putting it back to you. And I know you don't like to be put on the spot, but I've seen you actually deliver several unconditional acts of compassion. So, I love having you as a friend, man. So thanks for being you. And I know how you're probably feeling right now. So I'll move on to courage.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
So, the second C of courage is, in order to be happy, you have to push through fear, right? Fear makes us anxious. It makes us uncomfortable. Sometimes it stifles us. And, you rarely see somebody in fear in a good mood, right?
Right.
And I just really believe that, whether it's the courage to take on a new job, or the courage to take on a new workout regimen, or the courage to get on stage, and I address that in my book, to really like draw in an audience and show up as your authentic self. You need courage in order to be the best version of yourself. And that definitely correlates with being positive. So, I'll pause there and ask you if you have any additional thoughts about that. But if not, I'll just keep going, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing. So I love what you said, push through fear. So people always try to overcome fear. And it is kind of a tricky thing because different people are afraid of different things.
Yes.
And I love that you accept that the fear is real, and then you're taking the actions to push through that. I just love that vision in my head of what that looks like. So getting on stage, taking those first steps up the stairs, to get on stage, and everyone is staring at you, and it can be overwhelming, certainly. But there's lots of different kinds of fears. So that actually taking that action to push through that, I think, is really a powerful thought there.
That's awesome. So, the third C is confidence. And there are folks that I'm thinking of. I had an interaction with a group a few days ago, and, Brian, I saw a young lady. She was dimming her light. I knew she knew the answers to the questions I was asking, but she was in a room full of confident and dominant people. And every time I asked a question, she wanted to speak up, but then she immediately shrunk herself because the room was overpowering her, right? So during the break, I walked up to her and I said, I know you know the answers to the questions I'm asking you, right? And she's like, yeah, I just don't have the confidence to just say, what's on my mind in this room. And I said, well, I mean, when we first started this, you were smiling, you were happy. And then, as the days started progressing, you're shrinking. I see you dimming your light. You're unhappy right now. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's just, I just find myself doing that. So I just took that moment to share with her that confidence correlates with happiness. I said, man, you're smart. You're a subject matter expert with this. And what I need you to do is take a chance, to have the courage to take the chance and do this. Take a deep breath. If you have to close your eyes before you say something, close your eyes, but have some power in your voice and you own the room. So the next time, when we go back in, I'm going to call you out. And I want you to own your responses. So, Brian, we went back in the room and I started the second part of the session, and I called on her, and her voice was soft at first. And then I saw her take her breath, and then she just really powered through. Like someone was trying to talk over her and she kept talking, and she landed that answer and changed it. She actually changed the thought process of what was going on at the time. And when she finished, I looked at her and I could just see her beaming, right? She was just full of optimism, positivity, like that moment really just changed how she felt. So I say all of that to say, we do need the confidence to show up as our authentic selves wherever we go. And that is definitely going to impact, our positivity, our happiness. Is going to release those hormones again. And I hope you don't mind me sharing that story with you.
Oh, that's awesome. Just think of the impact that you had on that person. I guarantee she will remember that conversation the rest of her life. A lot of times it's that uncomfortable moment when somebody steps in and says, you know what, I'm not seeing your authentic self. I'm seeing that you're dimming your light. What a great vision, a statement that is. For somebody to step in and do that can completely change the trajectory of her life and how she interacts in future meetings and future things like that. And I think so often it really is up to the leader to look for those kind of opportunities to, help people along. And so competence builds confidence, right? Yes. So if they don't feel that they're competent enough, that confidence is going to be low. So reinforcing the fact that she actually is competent in those things can really change how she sees herself, right?
Absolutely.
So in one of our books, so we have a book called IMBAR. So it's all about identity and how identity drives mindset, right? So it's how you see yourself really drives how you think and feel about things, which is your mindset. And your mindset drives your behavior. So think about the identity she probably had in that situation. She's seeing all these other high energy, vocal people in the room, and she felt like her identity didn't fit that scenario, right? That situation. So by you stepping in and helping her to shift that a little bit, that affected her mindset and then her behavior as well. So, and I'm sure the class ended up being much more interactive and productive because of it, right?
Absolutely. We had, something that I always like to set the tone with each class. I say, we want balance, energy, and leverage participation, right? We want and she created that balance because it was definitely being dominated by all the extroverts and all the know-it-alls. So yes.
Yeah. I think that's a lesson for leaders out there that, if you're leading a classroom or a group meeting and you're noticing that it's not equal participation, it's not balanced participation and balanced energy, calling out, and not in a bad way, but asking for the opinions of some of those people that are a little more reserved, right?
Yes.
I think that's important because often they have some really important things to share, but to jump into that energy for somebody that is a little bit more of an introvert, that's difficult. I'm very much that way in group meetings. I don't jump in. I wait for my moment, and then I share all the things that I've been thinking about. Right. So intentionally reaching out to those people, I think, is a great tip.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
So, the last C is a celebration, and man, we can't have positivity in the world unless we're recognizing what's happening around us, whether that's a moment of feeling grateful, whether it's, just sending a friend a text to say, I just want to, recognize how you've been showing up in my life. It's celebrating the small successes. I mean, when you celebrate and recognize yourself and others, just like in small bites along the way, man, it makes the world a beautiful place and it feels good. So that's the fourth C that ties to positivity, Brian.
Yeah, I love that. We talk about standing ovations in Gapology. It's one of our things. And I feel like anytime you can give someone a standing ovation, an actual physical standing ovation, even if it's just like 2 or 3 people doing it, that's another one of those things that can really transform somebody's life. But it can even be things like handwritten letters or just walking up to someone, telling them how much you appreciate them. So it doesn't have to be a monetary reward either. It can just be just a thank you. Hey, recognizing someone. I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Cool. So those are the 4 C's, everyone. So again, if you want to learn more about those things, pick up her book, How to Foresee Positive Change in Your Life. So let's move on to your newer book. So The Face of Adversity. So I got to tell you, both Julianne and I enjoyed your portion of the book, the section that you wrote. We really found it fascinating. And you shared at one point in there that really stood out to me, how you learned how to mirror the different people that you interacted with in your life in order to best fit the audience and the situation that you're in at the time. I really love that. And I always think about that just kind of in my daily life, because I think that is an important skill to have. Did you find that skill helped you then in your leadership and in your coaching world?
Absolutely. So, we are, whether we want to own it or not, a direct product of our childhood. And I think that I had a challenging childhood. I had to, face a lot of adversity, and, being able to shift and adjust early in my life actually taught me how to be a situational leader, right?
Yeah.
So, as an adult and as a coach, I think that I've done a good job of not taking things personally. But, that's because I think I know that people show up in the world in different ways that may make you uncomfortable, but they're really indirectly trying to tell you a story that you really need to ask more questions to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So in the coaching world, absolutely, that's helped me because, my clients tell me that I show up for them, like I see them, I listen to them. And that's really important. And it's important to me as well.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I think, showing up for other people and seeing it again, we're kind of back to empathy and compassion,
Yes.
but seeing it through their eyes, I think that's part of shifting how you present things, so that they best hear it. And that
Yes.
is a situational leadership thing as well, right? So, delivering the message in the way that they'll best absorb it, hear it, and take action from it. I love that. And as I was reading that section, that is what stood out to me, that how you can do that, how you can kind of shift that, because that's not a skill that a lot of leaders have. Some are like, it's my way or the highway, so
Right. That's
being
true.
able to go, okay, so this person's seeing the world this way. How can I present it in a way that they'll best hear and absorb it?
Absolutely, Brian. And I want to thank both you and your wife / business partner for helping us edit that book as well. To the listeners out there, again, I can, if you want me to write something and you want it to feel good or you want the message to land, I can do that. But Brian and his partner / wife, because she is a business partner, man, they really brought that book to life. So I just want to take a moment to thank you, both of you, for that.
You're definitely welcome. And she loves the book. I mean, she loves you, and she's never met you. So when I told
we have to make that happen one day.
I know. We need to come out there or something.
Yes.
But yeah, when she heard you were going to be on the show, she was really excited. So
that's awesome.
So why don't you share with our listeners how you came up with this idea? Because I thought the idea of the book was genius, where, you write a section and then you allow some of your contacts, colleagues, friends to write a chapter as well, and how it all ties under the one element of adversity.
Absolutely. So, Brian, I'm fortunate to know people on many levels. And what I mean by many levels is, I know folks on welfare and I know millionaires, right? Mm-hmm. And, what came about, I'm trying not to cry, Brian, because I'm thinking about a situation that I had with someone who contributed to the book. So I met a young lady who is an entrepreneur, and she always wanted to write a book, right? And she was just like, I don't even know where to start. I've been asking people, they're trying to charge me crazy prices. Here I am trying to drive my business. And I said, well, what would your story be? So she told me the story, right? And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking wow, how can I help her, right? How can I help her? And I was actually writing The Face of Adversity. And then I was thinking about how could I also show different versions of adversity, right? When she was telling me her story. So then I started thinking about the other connections and friendships and, ex-coworkers that I know. And I reached out to them and shared, hey, I'm writing a book. You all have compelling stories that I think would resonate with other people. And I don't want people to just see my story. I want them to see different ways to overcome adversity, right? So that's how that came about. So we addressed, there's someone who's a breast cancer survivor, right? We have just so many stories, and guys, you have to read it and take in each chapter, and please send Brian or myself a note and let me know if one of those stories touched you.
Yeah. And there's so many good ones. And, I'm thinking back on a few of them. So there's the one gentleman who wrote about the suits, where
Yes.
he, helps people who can't afford suits for different
Yes.
occasions. I love that. That was fantastic. I
didn't mean to jump in with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with PK Kersey, who, the suit guy, he, right after that book, he ended up in Gail King's closet. Yes, she had him come over to her apartment in New York, and she had him go into her son's room and pick out some suits, for his kids. So
that's awesome.
He is doing phenomenal right now. Yeah. I mean, he's been on talk shows. He's been on Steve Harvey's show. He's just doing a really good job, just giving one suit at a time, changing the world one suit at a time, man. I just thought I share that with you.
Yeah, no, I love that. Steve Harvey is like one of my all-time favorites. So he is. We always tune in the Family Feud, and he kills me on it. And he's known for his suits, right? He always looks great.
Yes, he is.
So that's really cool that they connected. I think that's awesome. Yes. Cool. So one other thing I wanted to mention in the book. So at the end of the book, you've got a section there with some quotes that you put in there. And I especially love the one from Nelson Mandela that says, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Yes. and I thought about that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true. Even just putting a book together. So, and Mark Tinas and I have put together a few books, and at the beginning, it's like, oh man. And Mark's always like, oh, we need a book on that. Oh, we need another book.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man, another book. It's such a big endeavor that it does feel impossible a lot of times. But then you blink and it's done. It's out there and you're holding it in your hand. It's just crazy.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to share with you, you brought that up with the quote. I have a pen that has no ink, right? And I keep this pink pen because for years I wanted to write a book. And, that's why this quote resonated with me. I wanted to write a book, but I was just getting in my own way. Like, where do I start? What do I do? Of course, it's that author's like fear of like, are people going to like it? And a very close friend gave me this pen and a journal, and she added a note, and it said, write that book one page at a time.
Yeah.
So I started doing that until I ran out of ink, man, and then I was almost done. So
wow,
yes,
and you still hold on to it.
Share that with you.
That's really cool. Yeah, wow. I would have that framed, and that'd be on my wall.
That's a good idea.
That is really cool. That just shows the work that you put into it.
Yes,
and it is, and I would say, there's been several people over the years that I absolutely think they need to write a book. Yes. And I don't know if they think it's too daunting or if they maybe just don't want to do it. But like my old boss at the last company I was at, man, he absolutely should write a book. He would get up in every meeting and he'd tell all these hilarious stories about growing up and that kind of thing. He's from Boston, and he would just share all these stories, and they're just fantastic. And I'm like, dude, this needs to be like a TV show, but you need to write a book. And he's a super smart, one of the smartest guys I've ever met.
Wow.
Absolutely could write one. So I think it is kind of a daunting thing, certainly for people. Yes. But I love that one page at a time, just one word at a time, just go.
Absolutely.
Just start getting it down. I always like to say, just start with just your thoughts. It doesn't even have to be in order. Just get it all, at least those thoughts down. That can create an outline for you, then to kind of work, toward the finished product.
That's a good idea. Like you're helping make the impossible possible. Just, like, okay, I step one, I wrote a thought down. Okay. And then it actually releases. I'm always talking about happy hormones, but it releases a hormone like, okay, something was done, right? Okay, let's do something else. Like, yeah. Thanks for bringing up that quote. That, of course, obviously is one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, that one's fantastic. Okay. So let's shift just a little bit here. I want to know more about your coaching business. So Cabrina goes by Coach Cabrina McLain. And I love that. That's just like your identity that we talked about, right? So can you tell us a little bit about your coaching business? What kind of things do you specialize in and that type of thing?
Absolutely. So, first, most of my clients are, it's different sectors, but they're medium to large businesses, and For the most part, I have a lot of government contracts and a lot of private businesses that have 50 or more employees. My targeted audience, they're leaders who lead leaders. So they're usually senior executives or directors. And, I sit down with, each client. I learn their mission, their vision, their competencies. And, what makes me different than a lot of executive coaches is I create content based on their core principles, their competencies, their vision. And, I have anything between, a minimum 3 sessions, between 3 and 10 sessions with my clients. And some I facilitate to every year, like the IRS. I facilitate to them in the spring and the fall leadership classes. And those leadership classes connect to their engagement scores, the common performance gaps in their and leadership gaps in their reviews. I really love working with them. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what I do, Brian.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. So the connecting with their mission, their purpose, I think that's critical for a coach to be able to do. In fact, I just had a conversation about this just this past week with another gentleman. We were talking about coaching and programs and that kind of thing. And I was talking about that's one of the most important pieces. Is understanding their business, understanding their world, so that again you can adjust your product or your teachings to fit their needs. So again, back to the stuff that we were talking about earlier, right? So it is really a critical piece that often I think leaders don't always consider. Yeah, even in our podcast. So we started this podcast really describing our books and our methods and that kind of thing. And this year we shifted a little bit as far as our topics. So we wanted to start to take Gapology, IMBAR, Speed of Purpose, our 3 books, and position it in a way where it starts to solve real world problems or issues or things that leaders struggle with on a day-to-day basis. So we started to just kind of shift the narrative around our products to fit the needs that we're really seeing out there and hearing from our clients and people that contact us. So I like that you do that. I think that's really an important piece.
Awesome. Thank you. And, believe me, I had to find myself, I'm thinking about you saying I do use my name as part of my identity, but I had to reinvent myself several times to find, my audience and how I could show up as the best version of myself. And this is where it landed. I mean, at one time I thought I was going to be a life coach, and I realized that knowing people's personal business is not my thing. And then, I shifted to coaching executives one-on-one. And, then I realized, Brian, as I'm into many projects. I have multiple jobs. I'm just one of those type of people, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I'm going to kill myself if I'm working one-on-one, with people like this. So that's when I started thinking, how can I collectively handle groups of executives to give them what they need and show up as the best version of myself.
Yeah. I like that you identified the things that you're really good at and then kind of funneled that effort toward those things.
I have to. And something, I can't even believe I'm sharing this with you, because this was a fear that I've recently overcome. So I don't know if you know this, but I dangle in the art world. Like I like paintings, and I like, I started selling my artwork, man. And
nice.
We'll see. Someone's like, Cabrina, you need another website for your art, but I think I'm actually gonna do that. So that's my next thing I'm working on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I haven't seen it. I'll have to go in and check that out. That's great. You are definitely multi-talented for sure. So
that's because I'm surrounded around people like you. I think so, to anyone listening, I think what we're both guilty of is we don't take compliments well, because as soon as we compliment each other, there's like an awkward pause and then we keep going.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I've always been that way. I just want to give, and receiving is always sometimes difficult. So
yes,
but I do appreciate that. So why don't we kind of close it out? Why don't you share where listeners can find you, where they can buy your artwork and your books and everything else?
Awesome. So, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn under Coach Cabrina, Instagram, Twitter. My website is coachcabrinamclain.com. And then all my contact information is on the website. And right now I'm selling my artwork on redbubble.com, but I am going to start uploading it to Etsy, and cool. I am going to create a website for it soon.
That's great. I'll be looking forward to that for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, Cabrina, this was really enjoyable for me. I'm so glad that you were able to get on the show finally, and I appreciate you being on. This is great.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. And it was great being here, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right, cool. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, that'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology, IMBAR, or Speed of Purpose, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Gapology production. Visit us at gapology.org.